Previously on Balls.
Yay!
Thanks, Gav. You just cost me $10.
Why? What's that?
I told John you'd be on the golf course. No ways you're answering your phone right now.
Nah, fucking my bloody finger up, man. So
What? Gavin, what has happened to you? I mean, you get, what, a 1.5 month break? You've told SuperSport United you come back like the day before the league starts. You've scheduled golf for the next month. It's like your utopia, and then you bug your finger.
I know. What can I do, mate?
Well, listen, I haven't chatted to you this year. Happy New Year, and I hope it's going to be another great year for you, man.
Okay, thanks a million, man.
All right.
Same to you. Same to you.
We don't talk to him a bit.
He's like
you're on your way. Yeah. So, I mean, it's kind of been African Cup of Nations obviously taking the centre stage, but geez, I mean, it's almost like a vacuum when Bafana went out just on social media and stuff, how it's just kind of fizzled out of here now.
Yeah, it's huge. I mean, it would have been good if they played even the semi-final, because then they would have played all the final, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So they would have played another week of this. So it's disappointing, but I mean, they did well, I thought, you know what I mean? I think they did well.
That's
where
been
they were, what base they started on, you know?
That's been the general reaction. I mean, going out on penalties is never something that would indicate how a team's performed or not, but, it's not a nice way to go out of a tournament, but the general consensus has been, listen, it's from a side that Gordon's put together. It's a work in progress, and we must just stick by it. And it's good, promising to hear that they're talking 2018 with Gordon, which gives him enough time to work on it and get things done.
Exactly. I mean, the two questions you got to ask yourself: did we expect to get this far? No. Have we improved? Yes. So I mean, for me, we've improved, and if you looked at the group, I didn't think we'd get out the group. But we've done well. I mean, we've done. Listen. There was a better vibe. The players played with more energy, and in the short space of time, Gordon's done a good job.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Just one other thing, I'd be interested to see if you picked it up, and obviously were you watching it there or on TV?
I was on TV. I watched it on TV.
Okay.
Yeah,
I noticed it just seemed to me that when it came down to the penalty shootout, we'd either sort of shot ourselves in the foot. And maybe it's not, you can't plan these things, but through injuries and people having come off and stuff. And I clearly thought I saw Gordon looking at his players before the penalty shootout and saying to one of them, listen, if you don't want to take one, you don't have to. So almost kind of planning the penalty shootout just before it happened.
Look, he obviously had his penalty takers, but obviously one or two that might have been off the field.
Yeah.
You don't really know. I think there was one or two that had a few injuries or cramps or whatever, and also maybe squeaky bum time.
Yeah.
You know the story.
Yeah.
So one or two didn't want to take maybe. So you never know the true story. But all in all, I mean, it's a difficult situation to be in. Never nice to lose on penalties.
Yeah. I'm stunned that Ivory Coast are out, and I just get the feeling that sometimes when you've got a side that's got so many of these guys with big contracts in England, that they spend more time worrying about not going back injured or picking up injuries and actually playing as a team. And I think, do you think that's why Ivory Coast?
I also think that, over the years, there's always been a lack of, I think, respect for the guy in charge, the coach. They come from Jose Mourinho's and Alex Ferguson's. I'm just giving examples, and top coaches around the world. And they come to these guys who are journeymen, have been around, you know what I mean? They're all over the show. And I think there's respect for a lot of these guys who are in charge. I mean, you saw Adebayor with this guy, Togo. Now there's a bit of a blow-up there. But, and maybe the organisation and the tactics and the preparation is not the same what they used to in Europe.
Yeah.
I think that sometimes lends itself to, they don't actually but you're right, they don't actually put their foot in and work it as hard as they do in Europe, you know what I mean? They sort of come here and think it's easy,
Not the same commitment, which is why I'm kind of looking at Nigeria going, they're a young side, so they might not have that baggage they're taking with them. They could go all the way here.
I spoke to Stephen Keshi long before just as he got the job, and I said to him, he said, no, he's going to go the local route. He said, all these guys come back from Europe and they don't want to play, and this tournament's also the wrong time of the year. I think you've got to play in in June, July, when everybody's off season and sort of. But I mean, that's CAF, what can you do?
Yeah. All right, Gav. Well, I think absolutely perfectly summed up. Final question from Simon.
No, I just want Gavin's thoughts on the pitches, and in particular the Mbombela Stadium. It's copped some serious
They've
flack.
all looked shocking.
Yeah, they haven't looked great.
Yeah, I know. No, it's disgrace. I mean, I think they got caught with the rain. They said the pitch was good a month before, blah, blah, blah. But, gee whiz, I mean, I suppose logistically you can't move it at the last minute. But, I mean, gee whiz, the pitch was an absolute disgrace, wasn't it? I mean, even the other ones never looked great. I mean, FNB, Soccer City, they had that Chili Peppers concert there on Saturday.
Yeah.
You know, you tell me they could have a final there this weekend. I mean, imagine what the pitches look like. I mean, there was 80,000 people there.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they had the same problem when Gaga was there as well. I mean, it was the same problem, yeah.
It's all scar tissue.
Shut up, John.
Yeah.
It's water under the bridge.
Yes. Yeah.
All right, Gav. Well, listen, always lucky to chat to you. All the best for you when PSL gets underway again, by the way, boss.
Mate.
All right, man.
All the best, Darren. Okay,
You too.
John. Cheers,
Bye.
mate.
Bye. Cheers. Gav.
Bye.
He sums things up so perfectly.
Yeah,
I never wants to do a soccer show here.
Yeah, let's give it
Gav
to
is
him.
awesome. Yeah, there it is. That's and that's exactly my feeling. Is that these Ivory Coast and I think it happened with Ghana when Zambia won it as well. They've got so many of these big names. You think about it, they're on these huge, how many hundreds of thousands of pounds a week salaries in England. You come here or wherever in Africa to play AFCON, and you know you don't get anywhere near that kind of money to play for your country. And to them, what does it mean? So they come here, they say, well, I've to save myself getting lambasted by the people back home, I show face, but is there unity, cohesion in the side? And I think that's the problem with teams like Ivory Coast. Massive names from big clubs. And it's shown again that they stumble. I think Nigeria are going to win this.
What did I tell you? First week, watch out Nigeria, and you all said,
Yeah. So there we go.
But if we had Nigeria down, I think we would have beaten them. If we've got.
Yeah,
No, look, I think we'd have a better well, you see, again, if Ivory Coast arrived just because they wanted to arrive and they had to, we'd have had a chance to maybe beat them. But, I don't know.
What I've noticed is that we produce a lot of stars in Africa, but we don't produce like a unified team, like you're saying. It's like these guys are never.
Well, we should, because all our players play here in South Africa, and they're not on massive contracts.
Not at all.
So it's not the same issue for them. So on that basis, there's no excuse.
Yeah.
You know, we've got like one or two guys coming from overseas. But yeah, I just think it's a different story for us. I think actually more players playing over there, like the Stephen Pienaars in that kind of league. I think just the way of the South African, and because South Africa is the way it is. If we had guys playing over there, like Lucas, when he came to play for South Africa, he came to play. He didn't give like, oh, well, Leeds is my team and I'll just come do half-hearted stuff here. I think a lot of South Africans would be like that as well. One or two, maybe not, Benny. But I think the majority of them, if they had big contracts there, they would still come here and give their all, which would be a different story. I think we need more players playing overseas, but in top leagues, not...
This is Balls Visual Radio. Darren, Simon, Kate and John. Weekdays from 3 p.m. to 6 p.m. Central African Time. Balls.co.za